Alright folks, my name is Freyn and welcome to the Storm Hobbits 42 LG. I'm sure I've pronounced that wrong, I don't know why I even try most of the time. Now at current this is a battle rating 3.0 German tank destroyer. It used to be battle rating 3.7, has recently been lowered, and that's one of the reasons I'm taking it out today. I made a video on this about a year ago at a viewer request. I'd never played it before then, and I really didn't like it. I didn't get on very well with it at all. The 105mm howitzer it's equipped with has relatively low pen for what was then a 3.7 tank. And without a turret and an below average reload speed, it really wasn't that great. But in its new position in 3.0, it is actually really good now. The frontal armor is 80mm thick with some extra track armor on top, so it leaves very few places that are reliably easy to penetrate, especially at longer range. Its gun no longer suffers with low penetration because most opponents it fights are now within that penetration range, especially if you're down tiered. So if you get a map where you feel you can make use of a casemate, it's definitely worth taking out. So for this first game, I am on Stalingrad. It is Conquest, so I know mostly where the enemies are going to be. And I'm pushing up through the centre, just taking out a T-50 there with a shot over the top of some snow. It's not the highest velocity gun, but it's not horribly low velocity like, say, a Sturmpanzer. So you can arc the shells a little bit, but not too much. I'm just moving forward into my usual spots here. One of the reasons I like this spot is I've got decent vision all around me. While I'm not necessarily covered from the sides, you know, I don't have buildings along my flanks to prevent those shots. I should at least be able to see people approaching me. But we've got quite a few enemies on the cap, there's a few visible there. No one should have seen me, so I'm going to peek forwards. Gun depression was letting me down a bit initially, but you can see there's 3 enemies there. I chose to go for the M4A3 105 in the background. But you can also see there's an M4A1 there just creeping up on me. So I'm trying to back up a little bit, make sure he can't get a shot on my flank. But he doesn't seem to be coming around from the left, so if we look just over the top of the rubble I can see his turret. Not enough for a shot, but I know he's there. Now, here I hesitated. I could have probably shot him in the turret cheek. It's not always a kill, but it should do significant damage. Fortunately, not a long repair time, but I was a bit well, not confused, but I was wondering why that M24 was not shooting him in the side. He's fully visible. Fortunately, he kept peeking after I'd finished repairing. I never fired, so there was no visual sign that my barrel was repaired, as it never sort of banana peeled out. Now with this B1, I should have enough pen for his front, but I chose to go for the turret ring as I know that's a weak spot, and I couldn't decide if it was going to be a B1 Biz or a B1 Turret, which has got more armour. Either way I should have the pen. But I chose to go for his turret ring, knowing that usually that's the one reliable spot that will pen regardless. It did, and didn't do any real damage, so I put my second one into his driver's hatch instead, and that worked out just fine. The B1 has no real way of penetrating this frontally. None of its guns have got enough penetration, whereas mine does. It's not hugely high in penetration. It's 84mm of pen, I believe, on the APHE round, but it's enough for most lower tier opponents, which is what I was facing there in a 3.3 game. So now we're on to Sinai, and I'm playing, as I don't normally play with casemates much these days. I'm playing in positions that I don't frequently visit anymore, so I'm coming over to the A point, which is a rarity for me these days. Snag that little M5A1 StuH that was rushing onto the cap. I can see there's something ahead behind those rocks. I don't know what it is. I think it's that Crusader Mark III. He does have enough penetration for some of the weaker points on the frontal armour, so I don't want to give him a chance to shoot me if I can avoid it. Another StuH coming out, obviously trying to rush the Sturmpanzer there. And this game, well, it went very differently to how I expected. The A point's always been a focal point. I find that the majority of players do come here. I never quite understood why, but this was far more than I expected. See, there's someone capping it again. I can just see a Sherman turret in the background over that smoke. Oh, just before the smoke appeared, rather. So I know there's something pushing around. So I've backed up behind the rocks, keep my flank covered, and wait for whatever's coming to push out. There's one. M4A3 105. Very popular tank right now. It's also had its BR lowered. I feel it makes less of a difference in that case, but yeah, people like to drive tanks when they've been down tiered, so there's another one again. Lava shell through that. That's 4 kills. All of them technically lower tier than me, but all of them still potentially a threat. Crusader's there. He's fully visible, and I would have liked to go for him, but there's an M4A1 pushing up. Not my best shot. That was a little too high, really. It's going to struggle to pen the upper plate at that angle. There's another M4A3 there as well, just off to his left. But I've lost my transmission to these 2 M4A3s over there. So we'll take one. Reload, I've got no other option. Gets my driver and gunner. He knows where to shoot me. He's firing heat, so he'll go through without any problems. But I still had a loader, so I'm reloaded. Fortunately, while I'm debating where to take the shot on him, I get hit by artillery and I lose my gun. So that's game over already. Very quick. And now for the final clip here, a very short one. I just want to show how resistant to damage this can be. Now I've got on very well with this tank. I've got I think almost an average of 4 kills per game with it overall. Since this change, it's been great, but I've had no really standout games. Sort of 5 kills, 6 kills maybe came along. I did have a few higher sort of 9s and stuff, but they were all sort of towards the back end of the game, where it was mostly picking off anti-aircraft or, you know, just waiting for those final few players to give up respawning. So there's no terrific games to show. They're all just sort of, you know, in that sort of 5 kill range, a lot of 4s, and so yeah, this is going to be a very short video today, but I wanted to show how resistant its armour can be. Not so much in an up tier. If you take it into a sort of 4.0 game, you're going to struggle both in terms of penetration and survival. But in a down tier, if you can play it properly, keep its flanks secure, it is damn tough. Whenever possible, try and cover your left side of the tank. That's where your main weaker point is of the driver's hatch. Now, that first shot there I would have expected to kill. The majority of the round got eaten by the ammo rack. Typically, shot into even an angled side of a Sherman like that would be a one-shot kill. I did have a few rounds which actually entirely got absorbed by the ammo rack with no crew damage at all. But there's another M4A1 here, which not my greatest moments. I rushed my shots a little, knowing that he's got a much faster reload than me. Go over the top, fire without waiting for the gun to stabilize, and yeah, clean over the top. It's a waste of a reload. So through the transmission, didn't get the bulk of his crew, and I actually could have sat and waited for my reload, but there is another tank in the background there shooting at me. I never really took the time to work out what it was, so I wasn't sure whether I could stand to sit in front of it. But you can see how many shots I'm taking here. And I've finally put the round through the turret cheek, which, well, I should have done on that Stalingrad game against that Sherman.
We don't have the advantage anymore.
Now the enemy is apparently just given up, the one that was shooting me. It was a Valentine Mark 1. So no need to worry about him anymore, he's quit out. There's a couple of little Stuarts roaming around. And again, this isn't a position I typically come to. I was trying to think of somewhere where at least one of my flanks would be completely covered. I would know there's no chance of getting shot from there. There's two enemies over there on the just west of me. I can't see either properly. Again, I don't quite have the shell drop to arc that shot over into the M5A1. He doesn't seem to be moving though, so made the potentially risky decision here to push him. This is pretty mobile, so you're not going to be exposed for too long if you can sort of get to cover. But in the meantime, there's another M4A1. Again, not quite the damage I would have hoped with a 105mm. There's a lot of filler in here. It should really be one-shotting most of the time. And there you can see, if you hit lower on the upper plate, it will pen the M4A1. None of the other Shermans from my experience, but it will get the M4A1. Now, I've had to skip ahead a little bit there. There was a weird recording issue. I simply didn't do anything for about good 30 seconds, but you can see I'm pushing the B point now. Just squeeze a shot under there to take out an M3 Lee. And like all of the casemate tank destroyers, your main weakness is losing your mobility. So, in comes a plane, and it's also what happened to my first two crew deaths there was from a plane. Unfortunately, alerted this M4A1 to my presence. He obviously didn't hear me shooting, he just saw the marker. He's still struggling to pen me frontally, he doesn't really seem to know where to shoot, but yeah. A casemate without mobility is dead. So yeah, that's pretty much the end for this video today. Again, sorry for the shorter than average video there. There weren't any great cherry-picking moments. Lots of sort of average games, mid-level sort of 4 or 5 kills. Nothing particularly stand out. But yeah, we'll leave it there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you next time.